We sometimes struggle with English. Most times we struggle with Latvian.
Oh yeah, more times we struggle with Latvian.
I even struggle with English too, so.
Well, let's hope this episode will not be a struggle.
Because we are joined by one and only Frankie.
Yay!
Hello.
My dear friend, a very loving person, a very outgoing person, and an adventurous person. And also, he happens to be Jurgis's boyfriend.
He's gay!
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh my gosh.
A gay person at Propaganda's episode?
Shocking.
But today is a very special episode, as it has now been almost a year since Frankie has been living in Latvia. And it looks, fingers crossed, that he's staying. Are you staying?
I mean, it looks like it at this point, so I made it this far.
Years a lot in life, but it run by quite quickly. No?
Yeah, no, it feels like I'm in university again, to be honest. It's just like, it's been flying, my time here has been flying by, that's for sure. So, but yeah, the only downside right now, though, is seasonal depression is amongst us now.
Regular depression is changed by seasonal depression. Yeah, but yeah, for those of you watching or listening, we welcome you. And we're in a different, is it a word in English? Emploi? It's a French word.
You should know that.
No, it's correct.
It's in a different setting as we are speaking in English. And we will talk through the ups and downs of being a gay expat in Latvia, as Frankie himself is, and as well as provide some practical suggestions on why all of you should move to Latvia, at least for a little bit. And you can send your bank statements of your purchases of the flight tickets to us, and we will be very happy to see them.
So our goal is to increase tourism and immigration to Latvia.
Yeah, but this episode we will single-handedly do that.
Because we cannot increase the birth rate. All right. Before we start, a couple of facts, which are not fun. Latvia is dubbed the second worst country in the EU to be LGBTQ+.
What's EU?
Good question, Jurgis.
Today we have a different audience listening. So
Exactly.
what's EU?
European Union.
Which is the United States of Europe. Yeah.
Nice. We know our audience now. And although gay people are not discriminated in their workplace, we don't have any kind of law to kind of...
like something that we don't have same-sex marriage. And our parliament can't get their crap together to legalize any sort of civil unions.
It was close.
It was close.
It was
very
very close
really
this
close.
summer.
Yeah, and there's still widespread social prejudice against LGBT people.
Yeah, like hatred and general biases. I often say that Latvia is generally where the US, for example, was like in late 90s or early 2000s. We have a handful of out celebrities or politicians, and only 16% of the society are in favor of legalizing same-sex marriage. So you can get the feel that it's not fully accepted, but we have someone who's...
We have Frankie now, so it's all getting better.
The shining light.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, because actually you have made an impact on a couple of people, at least in Latvia. I know my parents, for instance, love you dearly, and they're like, you have changed our perceptions of gay people, because they didn't have good examples. They probably did have good examples during their lifetimes, but growing up in the USSR, they were full with different prejudices and biases, and it sticks. So how do you feel about being bringing the torchlight in the society in Latvia?
Well, at first, I feel like that's a lot of pressure if you're putting this on me. But, of course, there's like other individuals here, part of the community that I would say that's like, joining me in this as well. But no, it's been like a really cool experience getting to know other individuals, a part of this like very, I would say, close-knit community compared to what I'm used to back in the US, where it's more widespread. And again, it's just a cool experience to be a part of this like movement that, is taking place at the moment. In the US, it's very widely accepted with the LGBTQ plus community. It's like, I shouldn't say it's like a trending thing or like it's very well accepted.
It's cool to be gay.
But, here there's a lot of progress to make, and, I'm kind of in the heart of it, at this moment. So, which is really cool.
Aww.
But then so I'm already a part of the safe space community as well too. So, yeah.
Exactly. So how did you end up in Latvia? Or rather, how did you meet Jurgis?
So, well, okay.
You can tell the story.
So the funny thing is, though, a lot of people actually don't know where Latvia is. Latvia is Eastern Europe. So, or actually northeastern Europe.
Yeah,
there we
can go with
yeah, yeah. So, it's like very close to Stockholm and the Nordics as well. So, but pretty much getting back to how I met Jurgis, we actually studied at the same university in Wisconsin. I'm originally from Minnesota, and for the Latvian viewers or listening to this podcast, Minnesota pretty much is in the upper Midwest of the United States, and it borders Canada. So we have pretty much the same climate as what Latvia would experience. But kind of getting back to how I met Jurgis, again, we studied at the same university. Jurgi was on a scholarship program at the same university that we were studying at, and pretty much I was out with a few of my friends. Shout out to Ashley, because I know she'll be listening to this. We went to this house show, and Jurgis was actually there. And from what I was aware of, he was looking for drugs that night.
And I found my drug.
Love is his drug, as Kasha would say. But
I was not looking for drugs.
You were looking for trouble.
Yeah. So, and as you probably see in American movies, it was just like a classic college party. Like you see like live
had like
music.
red cups.
Yeah.
That was the first time I think I saw red cups.
Yeah. So, and at the time though, you were supposed to kind of dress up nicely to this event. And I went down there with my friend Ashley, and in the basement, and I kind of scanned the room, and I see this tall man just like in the basement in just straight up sweatpants and a sweatshirt and like some like tennis shoes. Yeah, I was like, who is this man? So, but apparently Ashley knew him, so introduced me to him, and pretty much after the party was done, we went to this bar called The Joint.
Still no drugs. No drugs.
I'm learning a lot today.
So I went to this bar and, pretty much was hanging out with my friends there. And from what Jurgis was saying, he was on the fence about going at the moment.
You mentioned the climate is very similar, but that evening was the coldest I've ever experienced. It was like minus 40 degrees Celsius, I think.
Jesus.
And I was like, no. I was staying in dorms, but then something urged me to dress up.
Destiny.
And we called a campus cab with Anna and went to The Joint.
Yeah, and pretty much the highlights of that night was that we all like kind of hung out together in this big circle, just drinking beer, except for Jurgis and Anna, they're drinking wine. And The Joint was known to have
European. We're European.
So, pretty much our friend Anna kind of introduced me to Jurgis to talk. And as the night went on, I noticed that our social circle was just slowly dying down. It was just me and him talking.
And there was also Anna.
Yeah.
And Anna was like, my time to leave.
And pretty much what hooked me was that Jurgis said that his scarf that he was wearing was knitted from his grandmother. But turns out it was made from H&M.
You lied. I lied, and I felt really guilty, and I in the second date I disclosed that. I was like, Frankie, I have to tell you something. The scarf is not my grandma's.
Deal breaker. So, but yeah, after that we just kind of chatted.
That was our last and only crisis.
Yeah, pretty
the
much.
Scarf.
But yeah, after that, like we just kind of chatted and on social media and just kept on meeting up for, lunches and just walks. And here we are 3.5 years later.
Yeah, about to celebrate 4 years.
In April. Oh, no, February. God, wow.
He doesn't even know when we met. In April, when the temperature was minus 40 degrees.
But yeah, so that's how we met.
And why did you decide to move to Latvia rather than for to go to America?
So at the moment, I was finishing up my undergrad or my bachelor's degree, and Jurgis was like pretty much done with his bachelor's. So he flew back to Latvia and he was going to start his master's degree. So at the moment, this was pre-pandemic. So like in the year 2020 was expected to graduate. My plan was to come over to Latvia and work and like find a job because it would have been easier in that situation since he was studying and actually starting like kind of safe space and doing things like that with this project. And we kind of made the decision early. But what kind of solidified our decision for me to move over was when I actually first visited Latvia. And that for us, though, that kind of solidified our like relationship in a way. And that's when I was like, okay, like I could come here and live here. Like this would be a really cool experience. So
it's not that bad.
Yeah, it's not that bad. I pretty much just went through the process of getting a residency permit and visa. And all in all, in the situation, though, it's way easier. It's easier just to get a work visa as an American to Europe compared to a European probably coming to the U.S. So,
well, we need people.
Yeah.
We need everyone.
Yeah. So, I had a lot of support with getting the visa situated as well. And, thanks to all the native Latvian speakers to help me out. So
we'll talk about that in a bit.
Later. Yes.
At the practical suggestions section of the interview.
We talked about this, Frankie.
Yes, I'm sorry.
We were like doing this 3 days practicing. But,
Okay, so you mentioned that before moving to Latvia, you came here to visit Jurgis. Mm-hmm. So what were your first impressions about Latvia?
So do you want to hear the positive ones or the negative ones?
Both.
No, let's do a burger, like a good thing.
Yes,
a bad thing,
how to
and
do
a
it.
good
Come
thing.
on.
Okay. Well, first off, I think like with Americans visiting like Europe in general and Riga specifically too, it's just like the architecture and just the history. That's like what really like drew me. And just like some like cultural aspects, because in the US, like we lack this sense of like cultural roots. That's why I feel like a lot of individuals that are part of my generation look for a sense of like culture, and they go into like their family history and family trees and things like that to like find that grasp of like a motherland. So, experiencing like the different like Latvian, cultural aspects such as like, going to the countryside and just like different cuisines and things like that. That was a really cool experience.
Different cuisines, it's potatoes in all kinds of forms.
Okay, well, you don't have to bash
down a little
bit.
He was giving us a compliment.
Yes.
Take it. Mushrooms, we have so many kinds of mushrooms.
Most of them are not edible. No. You can eat all mushrooms, some of them only once.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh gosh. But that was like just the cultural aspect is what stood out to me the most at first. But let's go maybe to like one thing that stood out to me in a negative way was kind of the aspect, with Americans, they're very self-expressive and, very smiley and like put this positive front typically when you're out in public. With Latvians, I observed right away that, they're very self-reserved and not as expressive. So like, for example, when I was like walking down the street, there was this one individual, she was listening to her music, kind of like enjoying the mood and the moment. And like, this was kind of like the first interaction of someone being expressive in Riga, Latvia, particularly on the street.
Like, who is she?
Yeah. And, just like beaming like positive energy, which, I'm like such like a moth to that. Like I'm drawn to that type of stuff. So, I kind of made eye contact with her and smiled, and she got like red in the face and just like stopped what she was doing and looked down and like walked past me like after that interaction. So it's like a sense of like being like, very stoic, as I would say, just like not expressing too much emotion during like your first interactions, but working within like the recruitment realm, like specifically with interviewing Latvians, I know that like they eventually warm up with you and they kind of like expose themselves once you really get to know them as a person. So
yeah, that's a good one. I can also do a little self-reflection about this. When I came back from my studies in the US, I took with me the culture of saying, how are you when I meet someone? And I translate that to Latvian, and it's like kā tev iet, which means like Latvians respond to that in a very elaborate way.
Yes.
So when I go to a shop, when I went to a shop the first time when I got back, I was like, hey, how are you? As in like a hello.
Yeah. And
the person who I was talking with, they were like, life. Normal. Yeah. The word is normal that we use here.
How are you?
Normal. It's the Nordic way.
Yes.
Exactly. So yeah, it's just like get straight to the point, no smiles, but yeah.
Yeah.
But it's something that we can like learn from you guys, because we actually are very fun and loving people. We just don't show it.
Oh yes, of course. It's just like getting under that like initial barrier and just, kind of like finding a way to like sneak in with like some sort of similarity or, just something to get them talking about. Like, for example, during my interviews, like in order for Latvians to kind of like open up about themselves. And that's another thing too, is Latvians are very modest. So they don't like kind of like
achievements.
No. Exactly. They don't like sharing their achievements and like their proud moments, like as an individual. So like trying to like navigate those conversations can be quite challenging. But I think that's where, you just have to like take the initiative of starting the conversation and trying to find those similarities for them to like kind of feel like they can open up to you and create that like dynamic during those conversations. So
okay, and the second good thing, the bottom of the burger.
The bottom of the burger. There are a lot of good things. I just have to like kind of do like some self-reflection of what I've experienced within the past year. I would say Latvian summers are probably like one of the best things to experience in Riga and countryside, particularly like the long days. That's like one thing that I've never experienced before with living. And like, it's just like the city just feels so alive and just so many different events are like going on. And, not to like kind of expose myself, but like being out to like 5, in the morning, like, I'm going into these like places like, bars and restaurants and stuff like late at night and it's still light out. And then when I go in there and come back out, like the sun is rising again. So it's just, it's really cool to experience.
Oh, I miss that.
But yeah.
it's like 2 p.m. and it's like night.
Yeah. It's the eternal darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Both outside and in the soul.
Yeah. But no, I would say summer is probably one of the best things to experience in this part of Europe. So.
And what were some things that maybe you were anxious about or like hesitant? What you were thinking about before moving to Latvia?
Especially about like for being gay or?
Yeah, also for being gay, how you're going to like feel here.
Yeah, I guess like with a lot of Americans, they're with like particularly like Northern Eastern Europe, I should say. Like since there's such a history with like the Soviet Union, a lot of individuals aren't really particularly educated on the history of these countries. So they usually just associate the Soviet Union with these countries. And there was some sort of hesitancy because of the history of the Soviet Union. Like it's kind of made me wary and just like unaware of what was going on. But, with Yorgis in particular, like he really did some like education for me, like before like visiting for the first time and what I should be aware of and like my surroundings. And that kind of like leads into like, public displays of affection. Like it just, in particular, like, you can't be as self-expressive as I would want to be here compared to what I've been like back in the US and things like that, or even in Western Europe, I should say. But yeah.
Why do you think you feel like that?
I can comment on that. So Yeah, obviously there are a lot of implications due to Latvia being part of the Soviet Union for like 50 years during the last century, which like still shows in the stats that we said in the beginning of the episode. But generally, people haven't been, due to the fact that we're also like the fact that we are also like the Nordic mentality that we don't express ourselves, it doesn't even let people to get to know gay people. So there's lack of connection between like straight people and gay people because like we generally just aren't as expressive due to both being in the Soviet Union and then not Soviet Union, but due to being Nordic, and also the fact that we were part of Soviet Union, that gives the homophobia part of it. So it's both like the Nordic mentality and the homophobia from Soviet Union. So it's like creates like this mushy like feeling.
But to be honest, like lately I've been seeing a lot of like couples, but these are lesbian couples,
the superiors,
who are holding hands in public, and I notice them obviously, but I don't really notice like male couples doing that.
Yeah, I remember actually in Old Town Riga, you can see, because there have been a couple of times I've seen like gay couples holding hands in Old Town particularly, but that's because that's mainly filled with tourists. And I remember when you first visited in August 2019, I had also just gotten back from the States. I still had the internal feeling of freedom, and I remember we were like walking, holding hands in one part of Riga in particular. But then as the time went on, and then COVID as well, and then like getting back in the habit of like reading comments and understanding the vibe of the society, and I just like my public affection, like level of comfortness to do that has like decreased dramatically. And I'm very aware of myself, like surroundings. I know that Frankie's probably different and he maybe would be comfortable. We haven't really discussed this.
I think for me, I would be comfortable, yes. But also like another thing that kind of comes into play is like I haven't really directly faced any like discrimination because probably of the language barrier. So like even if someone was saying a comment to me, I probably wouldn't have understood them at this moment. I mean, of course, like I am starting to learn like Latvian in particular, but at this moment, like if someone's speaking to me, I'd just be like, what are they saying to me? So, you know, like that's kind of like what I'm currently experiencing. I'm in my own bubble. So
yeah, there was this one time we were leaving, during summertime. This summertime, I think we were leaving a party, and from a queer friendly place like Tallinn's Pagalms, and we were just walking, and then there were like two drunken individuals behind us leaving the place as well, and I was like walking in a little bit like a feminine way, quote unquote, and then those two individuals in Russian were saying, "Oh, that's the aktivny, passivny," as in like top, he's the top, he's the bottom. And I was just like so uncomfortable because like I know what they're probably not capable of much. Frankie and I could easily like take them down. But like I get very paralyzed when I hear something like that. So I'm just like, let's go faster. That's why Latvians are fast walkers.
Yeah, that's another thing that stuck out to me right away. I can never keep up with the Latvian walking.
We're either running to the bus or to catch the green light.
Literally.
Or from the homophobes.
Or from the yeah. But nonetheless, you did, when we were practicing this interview, you did mention that you did experience some like microaggressions in your workplace.
Yeah.
Not workplace, but
yeah. In particular, I was working on a recruitment project for a startup, like a Latvian startup company. And, I was going through an interview, and actually, like at the moment in my LinkedIn, I do have like a pride flag, like within like my bio and stuff. So it's like, of course, like people are like fully aware of like my sexuality when I'm conducting these interviews. But this individual is like an inbound type of, application for the job. So he didn't know that I was, a gay individual when I started, doing the interview. So, pretty much long story short, he kind of like outed me in a way because, I was kind of explaining the backstory of how I came to Latvia and by using like the term partner, within like the interview process. Instead of like boyfriend or girlfriend, because, that's, we kind of try to keep it like a level playing field. Like I try to like,
it's inclusive language.
It's inclusive language pretty much. So, but yeah, he kind of elaborated on like, why are you using the term partner and things like that? And then just like kind of, outed me during the interview, which at the moment made me feel uncomfortable, and was kind of like bashing me and like, we don't want like you type of people to be like in Latvia and stuff like that. And but I did call him out and for his actions and how you shouldn't be acting like this as like a normal human being. Like it was deceiving at the moment, but. Long story short, he didn't get the job. So, but yeah. So I think that's like been one of the direct experiences of homophobia I've experienced, in Latvia so far. But other than that, like, nothing in particularly like huge, I should say.
I think fortunately, like the biggest homophobia that we can witness is on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you say so? Like people just write their opinions and, we don't have any laws against that as well.
Yeah. I'm just like, whenever I read something nasty, like I click either on their profiles and see that they're probably like from a troll farm.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, because I know like generally educated people would not write comments like that.
Yeah.
And would not generally take part in writing comments on Facebook or elsewhere. Whereas when I see the comments, I'm like, okay, this is probably like 2 or 3 people. And since they're the only ones writing the comments and not the educated part of the society, it sort of creates the illusion that everyone's homophobic.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, but also being a troll is one thing. Another thing is like sending someone death threats.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Also, sorry, I'm stealing your thunder here, but just to give a little bit of context to like everyone listening and watching, I like one of the reasons also why I'm like against like personally of what's the term, public affection, displays of affection. During COVID times when we started Safe Space, we were doing the project, and then there was this one project that Eva was doing. Not through Safe Space, but through another organization that I also took part in. And then when the project was out, it was a video. I commented in the comments like just a rainbow emoji and that's it. And then there was this one individual who, first of all, responded some very, very ugly things in the comments, and then wrote me a personal message saying that, when you're at home, and named the city where I'm from, the town where I'm from, we will get you. So that means that they sort of somehow found out where I'm from. So yeah, I didn't leave Riga to visit my parents, and I just stayed and was pretty much traumatized. And I wrote to the police, and I sent screenshots and everything and explained stuff. And the police responded, "This is fine." As in, they didn't respond negatively, but like, "This is fine. Like, this is not a criminal case." And usually that's when Latvians give up, because there are a lot of cases like that, similar to that. And police just like is inactive. But then the last day before the deadline to sort of appeal that police decision, a friend of mine was like, "This is not okay. We should do something." So yeah, we appealed that and went to court, and the person was not sentenced to prison, but was sentenced to like manual labor, not manual labor, but like
yes, picking potatoes in the farm.
Was deported.
But how do you say like
probation?
Thank you.
I was like sent to Gulag. Manual labor, and he has a permanent record on his. Yeah, I revealed that's a male individual.
That's what you get.
Yeah.
Justice served by you.
You get what you deserve.
So
you
yeah,
what you deserved.
Overall, these like little experiences are putting me back, not in the closet, like I'm out to everyone, and I'm proud. But yeah, I'm just like, there are certain situations and contexts where I'm not fully comfortable in it, that's then I need to explain it to Frankie. But like, we're very good at communicating those times when I like started having social anxiety, for instance.
Yeah. There's like, certain like key body language things that pop up that I become very much aware when he's uncomfortable in a situation. So yeah, we'll either leave or I'll give him my ring to play with.
Yeah. Can I get your ring, please?
Yeah, go for it. Bam.
So do you think that stuff like this happens in the US still? Because I know that generally in the US you have legal marriage, like overall consensus.
Still.
Yeah.
Okay. But overall consensus is like, it's great to be gay, like we accept everyone, like it's very progressive, right?
Yeah.
Depends on where you are.
It depends on where you are. So that's one thing that you have to keep an eye on is like, in like larger like metropolitan cities, of course, like there's going to be a presence of the queer community. So like you don't really have that sense of fear. And also like one cool thing, like I remember like, going through my schooling and university years as well, like, there's always like these like small stickers saying like, oh, this is a safe space. So like it promotes like, what? I'm glad I'm here. But it's very much promoted. And there's even like within the universities, there's like, LGBTQ plus like organizations like that are very active and, like it's prominent and it's like relevant and it is like shown and displayed within, each part of these like large communities. But, as you get outside of like the larger city areas, like get into more like rural areas, that's where, more so like conservative individuals are residing. So you have to be more aware of your surroundings when you walk into a small town like bar or restaurant, and you can't be as expressive as you would want to be.
I remember it was this past January when I was visiting, and we went to Wisconsin to this one like
Yellow Lake
rural
Lodge.
bar, and we went in, and was it like a bartender or like
I think her name was like
waitress? Sammy was like, "Do I smell gays?"
Yeah. She was like pouring us some few free drinks and stuff, and she made us feel comfortable, so which was really nice. So I think that's important is to like show that we are like normal human beings just trying to live our lives, and that for us you and I were more comfortable because of this like sort of action. So yeah.
And how would you compare like the LGBT community in US and here? Like what are the differences or similarities?
Oh gosh, it's I guess like with specifically in like Riga right now or Latvia in general, it's smaller, like, but the
There's
country
like
is smaller. Yeah. Like, and that's the thing. Like
how many official gay families do we have now?
I think almost 30.
Oh my God.
30?
Yep.
Oh, dang.
30 gay families.
Yeah. Also, again, for context, remember what we were talking about. But, so we did mention that we don't have gay marriage and we don't have civil unionships for gay people, but 2 years ago, the Supreme Court ruled that there has to be a tool that would allow same-sex partners to like be registered. So starting this July, individual couples can go to the court and say that, hey, we're a couple with our family. And then the court gives them the family status, but no one knows what happens then. Like there's still no like set rules of what happens then. We just have this paper. We can go to the zoo and get family discount.
Wow, we're really going to use that to our advantage, aren't we?
Yeah.
I will be the child.
Boom, a child.
But yeah, getting back about the differences or similarities between communities in the US and in Latvia.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I've like seen, like since my time being here and even visiting, like I feel like the community has become more and more prevalent here. Like I've seen more activeness, like, with, organizations forming and things like that. There's like, even on like social media, like I'm becoming more and more aware of this community when at first it didn't seem like very prevalent at the time. Compared to like we're in the US, it's just, even like during like, we have a whole month dedicated towards like pride events. Like like pretty much, like we have events going on during like our Pride Month and things like that, and companies like get involved in like larger organizations during our like Pride parades and things like that as well. I mean, I'm not saying like, and like for example, like with Latvia too, like there is like a Pride parade as well, which is
we have
really
a Pride
cool.
Week.
Yeah, Pride Week.
we can't afford a full month. It's just a week. And you also went to Pride.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a really cool experience. It did kind of feel like a military event though. There's a lot of like, police officers and like,
like
individuals like, like guarding the area that we were all gathering, of course. So, but other than that, though, no, it was like a really cool event to see, like unfold. So.
Just like a little historical side note, the first Pride in Latvia took place in 2005. And it was, I believe, around like 5,000 people who were
protesting
and
like 50 marchers.
Yeah. And 50 marchers. And people threw literal poop.
We can say shit because it was
shit.
And blood.
And this is why basically our Pride events are like very secured.
Yeah.
But to our advantage.
Like that's only 17 years ago.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously now, like last Pride, I don't know how many, it was like 5,000 people marching.
8,000 people and 8,000. Like 10, 20 protesting.
Yes. So it has like really changed.
Yeah. Well, also too, it's like when we were like, walking around the streets in Riga, there was a lot of individuals like hanging out of their like windows from like, the tall like buildings and like, waving flags and like clapping and stuff. So the amount of support, it felt really, it was cool to experience in that moment. So.
Yeah.
And then even Jurgis's mom was with us too.
Yeah, that was also her first Pride.
Yeah. So she was involved.
And she was very overwhelmed.
Yes.
As in positively overwhelmed because she met like with some parents.
Yeah.
Because it's also very important for parents to come out. And my mom was also there and she met like a couple of our good friends, Liesma as well. And she was like, I wish I was a lesbian.
Love you, Tintre.
Wait, I thought you were American.
LGBT events have we been to this summer?
Oh gosh, we've been to a few drag king events, which was really cool. That is like another thing too. The drag king community in Riga is very, very large compared to like the drag queen community. I'm not like trying to bash on the drag queen community.
We have awesome drag queens, but like they're individuals.
Yeah. It's like there's more so of a sense of community with the drag kings here, which I've never been to a drag king show. So that was really cool to experience. And then also like, Robin Party, there's a lot of like gay raves that happen here, which is really fun. And, but as time goes on here though, there are more and more events that I'm seeing that are popping up, like with Riga Pride, like the Facebook group and stuff that are like displaying queer friendly events, which is, really cool to see. So, and becoming more active in it too.
Yeah. So it's quite good to live in Latvia.
Yes, it is.
After all.
I would say the pros outweigh the cons.
Oh my gosh.
I want to ask you about like so at this point, a year in, you probably have like a good like friend circle here. And like your colleagues, like generally, do you feel accepted? Do you feel like comfortable when you meet people? Do you feel okay with coming out like right at that moment?
I would say so. Yes. I mean, of course, like that's just something that's a part of my own self-identity. And I don't think that's something that I need to hide like anymore. And, I feel like it's important for me to express that because I want to be my full genuine self around these people. I don't want to feel like I have to hide a part of me when I'm meeting these new individuals. And if they don't like me because of my sexuality, then they can go F themselves. So like, I'm not going to waste my time and energy to please a person if they can accept me for who I am as a person. So.
But in your workplace, apart from that situation, how do you feel good?
Oh, yeah, of course. No, I think that another thing too is like, since Latvia is small, the startup community, in particular in Riga, is very close knit, and I felt like fully accepted with all the individuals I've interacted with. And, it's never been a problem for me, and I've been very much supported. Even like, Jurgi and I are actually going through the process of, purchasing an apartment together here.
I didn't know.
Can gays do that?
What?
Is this privilege?
But yeah, my colleagues at the particular organization I work for, shout out to Yanis, Yodas, and Roberts. They've been very active with helping us through the process of purchasing a flat together and giving us some points and tips and tricks to navigate this process. And luckily, it's been working to our advantage. I shouldn't say luckily, like fortunately, like it is like, moving quite smoothly for us. And we're quite excited to take this next big step. So.
I'm excited to live with you guys.
Are you going to be our new family cut?
Yes. I will live in the bathroom.
Yes, please. On the heated floors.
Yes. That's perfect. That's perfect for me. Right.
Well, this is good because this sort of goes into the second part of the interview. Let's talk about some practical things that you had to go through to get to Latvia because, for instance, as we know, again, we don't have same-sex marriage, we don't have same-sex unions, which means that there has to be a different, we can just get married and you can't just come here because Latvia wouldn't recognize our marriage as valid. Whereas in other countries, if we got married, you could live there if I was the citizen of the country.
And get a permanent residence.
And get a residency permit, yeah. Do you remember, what were the options that we went through to understand what you could do to live here?
What do you, I guess, with,
for a visa or something?
For my visa?
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing that kind of stuck out at the moment was, even before when Jurgis and I were seeing each other, I was starting the process of getting my Italian citizenship so I could become a dual citizen. But
he's not only gay, he's also Italian.
Yes. But, that process takes a very long time and it's a lot of paperwork and dealing with bureaucracy, which is, can be very gruesome sometimes. So, that option kind of got scratched out right away. I was thinking about studying, to get my master's degree here, which I could get a student visa. But of course that costs money and I have student loans to pay off. So, that was another option that I kind of scratched out. There was another thing too where I could actually get an EU blue card, it's called, which is only for very much specialized, individuals within a certain industry.
So developers
and things like that. I tried to navigate that, and just see if I could achieve that with my human resource background and tech recruitment and stuff. But unfortunately I wasn't as specialized as they wanted me to be. So that was another option that, did not work.
You're very special to me.
I feel special. So that's good. But, other than that, those are the only routes that I was thinking about. But then of course, the working situation, that was the last, I shouldn't say that was the last option. That was always a first priority for me, but we were exploring different options for me to get here at that moment.
Yeah. But I remember Jānis Kreilis posted a job ad about a position at a company he was managing at the time where, hey, we're looking for recruiters. I'm well, 1 + 1 is 2. And I sent him your CV. He was
Yep. I remember I met with him and the CEO of the company at the time, and I don't know, I think they just liked my attitude and just kind of hopped in.
You're talking.
Yeah, I'm talking. I'm an expressive individual, But yeah, I started doing remote work for them throughout the pandemic, and pretty much it was a waiting game to get my like application like done, and like working with the CEO of the company at the time just to get everything processed with the PMLP or the Office of Migration Affairs. So yeah, just like going through the steps and the checklist of things to get done, and finally everything was approved and booked my flight.
So wait, do they pay for your visa, or I don't understand?
So it's actually, it's typically up to the organization of what they want to do. So like, I think looking back on like the finances, like for me to physically get here and like get a visa or like go through the whole process, I think it costs around like 500 euros. So, but I don't know from the organization side, they may have to pay like different taxes or something to hire individual that's outside of like a Latvian citizen or the European citizenship. So, I don't know from that aspect but my own personal experience, like with paying things, it was around 500 euros. So
also there's this thing, there's a Facebook group.
Yes.
That's very helpful. What's the name of the Facebook
Expats
group?
of Latvia, I think.
Expats in Latvia?
Yeah, Expats in Latvia. They were a very helpful community, and they're very active, which is really cool. They actually post a lot of different events that are going on throughout Riga and try to get the community together and actually interact with each other. So, and there are even like some individuals that post on there and be like, hey, I'm moving to Riga looking to get a beer, like, reach out to me and like we can like get to know each other and stuff. So it's very fluid, which is cool.
I remember when Frankie first like moved or came here the first time, we were walking in Riga and like he would always be asking, what's this language? I'm like, Frankie, that's English. he was so used to like American English. He's like, British. Sorry.
I knew British. Come on. But yeah, that was like another thing too. It's like I can actually distinguish between Russian and Latvian now, so which is cool. But
that's a big thing.
That's very important.
Yes. Yeah. I knew that right away too. Like that's another thing too in the expats group. People are like, oh, like I'm looking to pick up another language. Should I learn like Russian because it's more commonly spoken here? And everyone gets like triggered. And everyone's just like, no. Like it's a big thing. So
no, we still encourage learning Russian because it's important to know languages.
Yes.
Like I regret not knowing Russian. But yeah, learn Latvian if you move to Latvia.
Mm-hmm. It's a dying language, technically, right?
Well, technically, there's less and less of
Frankie.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm going through the process of getting into my classes and getting to know the local language.
Yeah, my mom is like, the clock is ticking.
Yeah.
Not the babies, but I want to talk to you.
I talk in different ways, acts of kindness, or like, for example, one chore that I didn't escape from moving from Minnesota to Latvia was splitting and stacking wood. So I grew up in a household where we did that like ever since I was a very young boy, and I still do it today. And I thought I was going to escape it, but unfortunately I did not. So, and I love doing it.
My dad's like,
that's why we picked you.
My dad's like, so Kurirmans poika, which translates, where's my boy? He has some work to do.
And yeah, that's another thing. I grew up with manual labor, as you were saying earlier in the podcast.
You were deported.
Yeah. But yeah.
Okay, so after you came here, what kind of documents did you have to get, or were you just settled?
There's a
lot of documents that they like. Latvia loves their paperwork, so and a lot of like back and forth communication, like with all the PMLP or like the immigration individuals I was talking with, they all had different answers. So to like what I needed to provide. So just get as much like supporting documents as you can. Like things that I gathered for myself was my transcript from my university I studied at, my birth certificate, my social security number, my your passport, of course. What else? I have some like specialized certifications work in human resources, so like I got those like situated, and you also have to get them notarized and apostilled within like the US. That's like a process you have to do to like get them officially like recognized as like official documents. So what else did I have to gather in
Your
place?
university, did you mention?
My transcripts and stuff. So, birth certificates, just like a lot of just like supporting documents, I would say.
And this was for your residency permit?
Yes.
And it's a thing that it's a temporary residency permit.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to renew it once a year.
Yep. With temporary residency, you have to renew it every year, and that costs money to do as well, unfortunately.
And we can't get married yet, so we can't resolve that. We have to pay money every year.
Mm-hmm. So I, if there was a partnership, like you were saying, like I would get a permanent residency, which would mean that I wouldn't have to worry about like applying for a temporary residency every year. So, and the pressure of like holding a job position here as well would be kind of alleviated a little bit.
Yeah, every time you change a job, you also have to renew the permit. Because the permit is based on employment.
Yeah. So I had to do it within the first like few months of here. I had to reapply again because the company I worked for changed. So they, with internal like restructuring. So since they're SIA SIA is like an LLC for like in America.
LTD.
Or
LLC.
LLC. So like I had to, since they updated the name, I had to update my residency permit. So, which was quite annoying.
And that's homophobia.
I guess so.
Literally.
Also a disclaimer for those of you who want to move. This says something about the immigration policies of Latvia. But even though PMLP is the official migration service, everything was in Latvia.
Yeah.
In Latvian.
Yeah. So like even like the thing that was frustrating for me was that I was receiving all these, they even Latvianized my name, which was kind of cool to see.
Francis Michaels Einbergers.
Yes. So
Not Francis?
No?
But Francis.
Okay.
And with us English speakers, I still can't tell the difference between what he was saying right there. So, but it was frustrating getting all these like documents in Latvian, and there were PDFs that they were sending as well. It wasn't like an email, so I like would have to like download the document, like copy and paste. Like the whole, like actually transfer it into a Word document and copy and paste all the words and put it in Google Translate to actually understand what they were talking about. So luckily though, I have a lot of native Latvian speakers that were helping me through this process. So, that was like a very big, a struggle for me when I was going through this process, is because I'm an individual that likes reading through things and understanding what's happening, because I just like being aware. And if at times it felt like I was depending on others around me to like do this for me, which, as a lot of my close family and friends know, I'm a very independent person. So it was hard for me to, put a lot of trust in these people around me. But I mean, of course I trust you guys. So like, that's not a problem. Sometimes.
Okay. Despite not having like a permanent residency permit, you have decided to buy an apartment, which is pretty permanent.
Yes.
Is it? Are you planning on staying here?
I guess so at this point. We're about to sign the mortgage agreement, so we're at the point of really taking that next step. So
on which name is like, who is like the official owner of the apartment?
So luckily, when we were going through this process, the goal for both Jurgis and I were to be co-owners. Like there were a few banks that were kind of stating that it wasn't possible to do it that way.
I'm going to call them out.
Oh, okay.
So Swedbank, which is probably the biggest bank in Latvia, they were like co-sponsoring Pride this year, and they were very like, yay, gays, woo-hoo. And they, of course, got some backlash from like the homophobes and whatnot, but that's not the story. We reached out to them explaining our story, that we have to have co-ownership. Because then when we go to court to legalize our family rights, we can present that to the bank, to the court, and say that, hey, we're a family, we even co-own an apartment. And Swedbank, who are really pro-gay, apparently, rejected, meaning that they're probably just queer baiting and not actually, like, I would investigate a case-by-case situation like that, even though the communication was we didn't run into any problems.
Yeah.
And this whole process has been free of worries of homophobia, not on paper.
Yeah.
That's why we went with Luminor.
Shout out to Luminor.
Shout out to Irina, who's been very helpful as well.
Yeah. And they they sponsor the co-ownership, which is like very important to us, and we were kind of explaining this to like our peers and stuff around, and they were actually kind of surprised like to hear that, which, it's kind of sad to like hear that they were surprised that we were able to get this co-ownership situation like in place. And also like one of my colleagues' wife, she has like two friends that are actually they're a lesbian couple. They're both like native Latvians, but they moved to Denmark. And so my colleague's wife shared this story to them because they were actually looking to purchase an apartment in Riga particularly, and they heard about our story, and they were kind of inspired to be like, oh, this is actually possible. Like, we can do this as like a married lesbian couple in Denmark. We can move back to Latvia and purchase like a flat together under our co-ownership situation, which is really cool. So yeah, it's possible.
So you're kind of like the front runners of the co-ownership
movement. Co-ownership. No, technically, there has always been the option to co-own. Like, any number of people could own a place.
Yes.
But like in a family, like blood related, or is
no, two complete strangers could like co-own an apartment. But the thing with Swedbank was they were asking for a bigger down payment.
Yeah.
They were not like, we're completely against this, but there are more risks and whatnot. We're like, what risks are you talking about?
Yeah. So our down payment would have been significantly larger
if we were like married or in a civil unionship. Then probably they would be like, okay, this is a different story, but we're like technically a family, but they didn't see that as that.
And we and that comes back to the point, we can't be recognized as a family because there isn't anything in place for us.
Yeah.
So, but no, we decided with Luminor, so it's been good.
And what about like just finding the apartment and explaining the situation to the apartment's owner? Were you honest about being gay?
There was some hesitancy because, I think both like Jurgis and I did discuss this before we started the search. Because, of course, if we came across an apartment where we like would absolutely love, we wouldn't want our sexuality to come into place to like for them to say no to us. But then Jurgis was always saying like, well, if they do this, then we're going to bring them to court. So like, because, of, the prejudice that's behind that. No, I think that we kind of just got a general sense of these individuals that were showing us these flats and like going through the viewings and stuff. Like, we felt safe. Like, you just get like a gut feeling that you're in like a safe space. So it's just like and you can tell these individuals that were showing us these places are like well-educated individuals, and like, they just were aware. And with Jurgis, when he was talking in Latvian with these individuals, he was openly expressing that we were, a couple.
At first I was.
Oh.
Especially in particular in our case, in the apartment we're purchasing. At first I was like, well, we're both thinking about buying separately as like two individuals. He's an American. So maybe he wants to invest. I don't know. He's a friend of mine just coming by. But then like pretty soon on, I was like, we didn't like explicitly say that we're gay, but like she figured it out. We were like looking at the bed, and Frankie was like, "This is perfect."
Yeah. And she was walking in like the walk-in closet. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing."
We're like looking at the kitchen. We're like, "Yeah."
We are platonic friends.
Generally, again, I have heard. Of course, there's a difference if you're buying or renting. And even though, again, discrimination in housing is not legal. There are, of course, cases where like people are like a couple of friends of mine actually go to an apartment they want to rent, and the owners are like, so the two of you would be living here? This is like a 1-bedroom apartment. And then they're like, yeah. Then they're like, oh. And yeah, I don't know the details, but yeah. And when you're buying, it's like all about the money.
Yeah, that's the thing. But
that's the underlining thing.
All right. So do we agree that it's good? It's gay to be gay in Latvia.
It's all gay. To be gay.
It's okay.
And it's getting gayer.
Yes, exactly. So,
well, is there anything else you want to highlight about your journey, or looking into camera? Can you like about other gay potential expats moving to Latvia?
Well, you can always find me on social media or LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to share more in detail about my experience. And
he's a recruiter. He could get you a job.
Yeah. Also, I have a lot of connections in Latvia. So I'm in connection with a lot of the recruitment realm here. So if you're looking for a position, just reach out to me. So, I'm more than happy to talk with people about my experience in more detail and kind of go over like what the process looks like. But just know that it's possible. And persistence and patience is what I would say you have to really hold in when you're going through this process. So, but yeah.
Thanks, Frankie. And also, we encourage all of the listeners and those of you watching to donate, because as you heard, not for us, for Safe Space, but as you heard, like, being gay in Latvia, although is not as bad as it was like 15 years ago, 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, there are still, the legal aspects are lacking, and like there are a lot of expenses that gay people have to go through. And with doing podcasts like this and doing different projects, we strive to increase representation mostly, and then pushing for legal rights comes next, of course. Or in parallel.
And also just giving like practical help to other gay people.
Exactly. And just letting everyone know that, hey, we're here, we're queer, and you can also be that. And, so for us to keep on doing this,
we would appreciate if you would donate to us.
To Safe Space as an organization by heading to go.safespace.lv/propaganda.
And just not to like bash on like the financial aspects of Latvia, but the US dollar goes a very long way here. So even small amounts will be helpful. And you will be a part of this like progress, because everyone deserves equal representation. And a lot of individuals in this part of the world aren't experiencing that compared to what I was brought up with in the US. So, yeah.
Single-handedly resolving immigration issues and homophobia. That's Frankie.
Thank you. We're very happy to have you.
Yes, I'm always happy to be here too. So.
And once again, thank you everyone for watching and listening. And most importantly, thank you to the Active Citizens Fund for making this podcast a reality.
Thank you.
Thank you, and see you in 2 weeks.
Ciao.
Or some other time when we
in
talk
2
in
weeks.
English.
In 2 weeks. Okay. Oh yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Ciao.
Ciao.